Once pro-black hip-hop legend turned reckless conspirator Kanye West has been making his rounds on the internet, spewing hateful rhetoric for all the world to see. West has become increasingly radical since admitting that he was no longer taking his bipolar medication in 2018. He has since then made it his mission to openly attack both the Black and Jewish community while simultaneously harassing his now ex-wife, Kim Kardashian. Although his lack of medication is an issue, it is not an excuse for the disgusting things he has since said and done. But there is something to be said about the way mainstream media outlets continue to allow a man suffering from what seems to be an episode of bipolar mania to come on their platform and humiliate himself as he spreads harmful QAnon-level conspiracy to a mainstream audience. Well, finally, he is starting to be held socially and financially responsible for the destruction he has caused in wake. However, it wouldn't be his restless attacks on the Black community that would leave him in hot water. It would be his recent anti-Semitic rants that would get him shunned by an industry that once loved him. Not many would recall this, but he began his attack on the Black community well before anyone had truly noticed. There is thorough evidence that West had been pining after the socialite Kim Kardashian for years before they would become internet official in 2011. He even went as far as to try and convince her not to marry basketball star Kris Humphries in 2011 by buying himself a cell phone and sending Kim pictures of basketball players that were once popular but eventually were to fall off socially. Kanye recalls this memory on Cocktails with Khloe, stating, "I got a phone call because somebody decided they wanted to marry Kris Humphries." Kanye reveals, "I started sending her pictures of certain basketball players that used to be cool that now they wear their pants all the way up to here. This is your future." Once Kim's short-lived marriage to Humphries had finally ended, Kanye West took this as an opportunity to swoop in and make his move. He invited Kim to his Paris fashion show with the sole purpose of getting her to go on a date with him, and sure enough, they would start dating that same year. In 2015, Kanye West's ex, model and socialite Amber Rose, got into a Twitter tussle with Kim Kardashian's sister Khloe over comments Amber Rose made on their, at the time, 17-year-old sister Kylie's relationship with a then 24-year-old rapper Tyga. Rose had been best friends with the mother of Tyga's first child, Blac Chyna, and found Tyga's relationship with Kylie to be particularly odd. She revealed her feelings in an interview with the popular radio show The Breakfast Club. Rose states, "She's a baby. Kylie needs to go to bed at 7 o'clock and rest." Rose scoffs, "That's ridiculous. Tyga should be ashamed of himself. For sure. He has a beautiful woman and a baby and left that for a 16-year-old who just turned 17. This prompted Khloe to get on Twitter and try to drag Amber Rose for starting to strip at age 15. A comment made in poor choice when you consider that the Kardashian clan's rise to fame stems from Kim Kardashian stealing from Brandy and then having a leaked sex tape with Brandy's brother, Ray J, which Rose was quick to remind her. This Twitter altercation would ultimately lead to Kanye going on The Breakfast Club himself and make very uncalled for comments about Amber Rose. He made sure to let everyone know that he believed his wife, Kim Kardashian, to be superior to Amber in terms of class. An idea rooted in nothing but anti-blackness. It's very hard for a woman to want to be with someone that's Amber Rose, so she wasn't sending nothing. You know what I'm saying? I had to take 30 showers before I got with Kim. This was a very low blow. Not only was it anti-black, but it was misogynistic and classist. There's nothing wrong with either woman, and neither should be subjected to comparison, especially by a man who has dated one of the women and is currently married to the other. Amber Rose has since then admitted that she regrets the day she went about responding to Kardashian drama. She advocates for the sexual liberation of women and feels that this did not best represent how she feels about women who are openly sexual. Kanye West, however, would go on to become even more anti-black and with time less apologetic about it. As previously mentioned, Kanye West has been open about being off of his bipolar medication since 2018. a decision he made for the sake of supposedly preserving his creative mind. So when West's behavior quickly became erratic, many were worried about his mental health. But Kanye was claiming that his bipolar disorder was simply a misdiagnosis to then-President Donald Trump, who he had formed a close relationship with after admitting that he was a supporter of Trump back in 2016. This friendship stunned many, given that just back in January of the same year, Donald Trump had been caught calling Haiti and other African nations shithole countries to a table of bipartisan senators during a White House debriefing. But Kanye West would shock the world by continuing to stand by Trump after this comment, even going as far as to randomly start professing his love for the now former president via a sporadic series of tweets after being on a Twitter hiatus for an extended period of time. Though he does not stop there, no, his next anti-black move would be to go on TMZ and call the brutal 400-year-long rape, torture, and enslavement of the African people a choice they made. West was on TMZ talking about his advocacy for the ideologies behind the Make America Great Again hat he had been sporting for a while when he suddenly began talking about slavery. West turns to TMZ reporter Van Lathan and says, "When you hear about slavery for 400 years, that sounds like a choice," he says. Like you were there for 400 years and it's all of you all? Lathan was visibly upset by the way Kanye had just made genocide out to sound like the victims had any say in how long their genocide would last. Lathan was then quick to put Kanye in his place by letting him know that although he is entitled to his opinion, his words have real-life consequences. This would be a piece of advice Kanye would continue to ignore back then in 2018 and now in 2022. Kanye kicked off the beginning of October 2022 by denouncing the Black Lives Matter movement, BLM, in favor of the reactionary movement, White Lives Matter. Many would agree that the BLM organization has its own issues, but the movement and the actions of the organization are not the same. The BLM movement simply asks that people acknowledge the way systematic racism affects Black people's daily lives. Therefore, one does not have to support the organization to support the message of the movement. On the other hand, the White Lives Matter movement does not have such a message. This is because the White Lives movement is a neo-Nazi group that was created in order to directly oppose the BLM movement, which the co-founder, Rebecca Barnett, has said outright. In 2016, this is what Barnett had to say during the peak of BLM's social media presence. What happens to blacks in this country at the hands of law enforcement is none of our concern, other than to prepare to restore order and rebuild our neighborhoods, taking back our lands one community at a time. When the enemy destroys, we guard our own town borders and make our homes white and great again. This is what the White Lives Matter movement stands for, the eradication of all non-white people in the United States. Yet Kanye West, the Queen Coon Candace Owens, as well as the daughter of Lauryn Hill and granddaughter of Bob Marley, Selah Marley, are all seen wearing White Lives Matter shirts to West's fashion show in Paris. The only one of the three to attempt to give an explanation for this was Selah, but honestly, it was done in poor taste. Selah took the time out of her day to go on Instagram and insist that she wore a White Lives Matter shirt for some scheme that is much bigger than what we are seeing. Selah states, "The victim becomes the victimizer. You cannot bully me, manipulate me, or coax me into silence. Nor will you bully me into being who you want me to be. I don't care how many tweets you make, DMs you send, or articles you write. Throughout all of the chaos, I have yet to speak on my experience. If you know me, you know that nothing I do is without deep thought and intention. Wait till you hear what I have to say." Undoubtedly, this was nothing but chatter. There is nothing that Selah Marley could say that would justify associating with the White Lives Matter movement because, again, the White Lives Matter message is one rooted in white supremacist ideologies. Although Kanye West, as the ringleader of this charade, was harshly criticized and all parties involved received major backlash, nothing would come of it. Kanye West still had his deal with major fashion brand Adidas, despite pulling this stunt at their fashion show. The only reason why Adidas would begin to reconsider their association with West would be because West publicly complained about his contract with them. But yet again, Kanye West was bluntly anti-black and faced no consequence for his actions. A few days later, Kanye West would go on the multinational conservative news channel Fox News, hosted by Tucker Carlson, to vent about what he thinks is killing the black race. West makes several untruthful and misleading claims about what is happening to black people in America during this interview. He even goes as far as to bring up rapper, singer, and musician Lizzo in order to try and support his beliefs. West states, "There's more black babies being aborted than born in New York City at this point. 50% of black death in America is abortion." He then brings up Lizzo when he turns to the topic of obesity and tries to say that being overweight will be the genocide of the black race. If he is so concerned with the preservation of the black race, why would he align himself with Why Lives Matter? If he is so concerned about what is killing the black community, why would he claim it is abortion when that is just not true? He is so unserious that it is alarming. Though he continues on with this nonsensical behavior by going on Instagram to post text messages between him and artist-turned-record executive P. Diddy that features a series of anti-Semitic talking points, which got his page restricted. But don't worry, he then took to Twitter to tell the world that he was going to go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, which according to Kanye is okay because black people are also Jewish. Fortunately, this got his Twitter page blocked. However, he would go on to show after show, podcast after podcast, and continue preaching white supremacy under the guise of being pro-black. Like when he went on an episode of Drink Champs and falsely claimed that the late George Floyd's cause of death was fentanyl, despite the video of Officer Derek Chauvin kneeling on Floyd's neck for around 10 minutes. Or his most recent appearance on a right-wing internet show, InfoWars, hosted by conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, who just got sued by the victims of the Sandy Hook shooting after claiming that the tragedy was staged. West went on to the show and spoke about how, despite his anti-Semitic views, he loved Jewish people, but in the same breath said he could see the good in Nazis and that he loved Adolf Hitler. Not only is his behavior erratic, but it is harmful. As an artist who once had millions of fans, Kanye West's words have the power to influence thousands of people and enable white nationalists. Kanye West should not be invited to do interviews and podcasts when anti-Semitic and anti-black messages is all that he is putting out into the world. Notably, it is Kanye West that is preaching these anti-black and anti-Semitic talking points. But when we look at how he's able to spread this message, it is not just him that is to blame for the way his words have affected both the black and Jewish community. We are watching as white people invite this mentally ill and unstable person to their shows to speak freely. They enable his behavior by broadcasting his message, use him for all the ratings he's worth, and then when the backlash hits, they try to distance themselves from this situation. Kanye West is to blame for his actions, but mainstream media should be held accountable for allowing him to go on their platforms, all while knowing his pattern of behavior. An anteater is going to eat ants, and a mentally unstable person is going to be mentally unstable.